All right, Jabosai, good morning. Let's begin. I'm confident you did your homework. We are picking up on Mem Beis Amud Aleph, Tan Rabbanon, 2, 4, 6, 7 lines down from the top. Tan Rabbanon. I will say beautiful daf ahead of us today. Tzitzis, the Gemara says tzitzis, ain't tzitzis ela anaf. So we'll say tzitzis ultimately again refers to the strings hanging down. Remember again, this goes back to a motif that we've seen over and over, which is the idea that tzitzis is comprised of two parts. There's the gdil, which is the braided part, and then there is the anaf, which are the strings which hang down. So the Gemara understands that the word tzitzis itself refers to the fringes which hang down. V'cheinu omer, v'yikacheni b'tzitzis roshi. So to say the pasuk says in Yechezkel, he took me literally again by the tzitzis of my head, which refers ultimately again to the hair that hangs loosely. And you have to go ahead and separate it literally like an Aramean braid. So Rashi points out that this refers to the bluris. You know, by the Ofti Kochav and by the Akum, you had a particular hairstyle where it was braided close to the scalp, but then was I'm sorry? Right. Was braided close to the scalp and then but was unbraided further away. So that's how tzitzis looks, braided at the top towards the beged, and then again unbraided going down. Tan Rabbanon, hitil ala keren o al hagdil kshera. So the Brisa teaches as follows: if a person placed tzitzis on the corner or on the hem, so the idea is, we'll say in this case, a person is placing the actual tzitzis at the actual corner, literally all the way at the edge of the beged. So what's talacha? Kshera. So we'll say the first opinion over here says that it's kosher. Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov posel b'shtehen. Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov says no, it's posel. Both are posel. Now both saying Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov's position is one that we have clarified over the last couple of days, which is tefillin are supposed to be on the corner, but not at the corner. Hear that difference? On the corner, but not at the corner. So tzitzis have to be placed a couple of finger breadths actually, or really, we'll see how much right now. So the Gemara says, Kiman azlaha dam Rav Gidl Amarav. So we'll say, according to whose opinion did Rav Gidl Amarav say this idea? Tzitzis tzricha sheteno tefes ala karen. Tzitzis, literally, we'll say, have to rub against or have to bang against the corner. So we'll say, so what does that mean? So that's saying that tzitzis kind of have to flap against the corner, but don't sit all the way at the bottom of the corner. Shene'emar al kanfei vigdehem, because the pasuk doesn't say big kanfei vigdehem on the corner, rather it says on the corner, not in the corner but on the corner. Kiman k'Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov. We'll say that reflects the view of Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, namely that halacha l'maisa tzitzis are not placed all the way at the edge of the beged, but rather again tzitzis are placed on the corner, somewhere above the actual edge of the beged. Amr Rabbi Yaakov, Amr Rabbi Yochanan. So we'll say now, obviously, okay, so now after we established that halacha l'maisa, tzitzis is not placed all the way at the edge of the corner, but instead is placed a little bit above the edge of the corner, the obvious shaila now becomes what? How high? So how high above the edge of the garment do you place your tzitzis? So we'll say, this is all. You see, here's what's amazing. We live in such a different age that for us, I say to myself, I know where they place the tzitzis. When I go in to buy it, wherever they put it, that's obviously the kosher place to put the tzitzis. You know, it's amazing how we've become consumers, meaning in so much of our Judaic items. We no longer have to sit. But here the Gemara says that they have to fashion it themselves. So how far up do you have to put it? So the Gemara says, Amr Rabbi Yaakov, Amr Rabbi Yochanan, V'tzarch sheyarchik milo kesher gudel. Both say the idea is you have to go ahead and space it at least the thickness of the joint of the thumb. So, and both say this is actually halacha l'maisa. So tzitzis has to be placed at least the thickness of the joint of the thumb, ultimately again from the edge of the garment. Now remember again, you have a shear here. What's the shear? Tzitzis can be placed no more than 3 finger breadths from the edge of the corner. So that's the maximum shear. We're going to see this in just a moment. The thumb is the minimum shear. So it says the Gemara, V'itzrich to Rav Papa, v'itzrich to Rabbi Yaakov. And now I need both of these statements. I need Rav Papa to say, Rav Papa is the one who told me that the maximum distance from the edge of the corner of the beged for my tzitzis is 3 finger breadths. Rabbi Yaakov is the one ultimately who teaches that the minimum is the width of a thumb. So I don't need both of these. So the Gemara says, Di'i mira papa hava amina toch gimod lo lirchik tvei the kama de mikrav ma'ali itzich Rabbi Yaakov. Because we'll say if the Gemara would have just taught me that the maximum shear for distancing the tzitzis from the edge of the beged is 3 finger breadths, I would have thought what? That's the maximum shear. I can't put it any further, but what? I could put it as low on the beged as I want to. Therefore comes along Rabbi Yaakov and says, no, the tzitzis must be removed at least the width of the joint of the thumb from the edge of the beged. Even with Rabbi Yaakov, and if the Gemara would have just told me the sheet of Rabbi Yaakov, Hava mina malei kesher gudol likriv tvei the kama derachik ma'ali. I would have thought that all I have to do is distance it at least the width of the joint of the thumb from the edge of the beged, but I can put it as high up on the beged as I want to, therefore tzricha. Therefore we'll say I need both the shilos of Rav Papa and Rabbi Yaakov to teach me that tzitzis must be placed at a minimum of 1 thumb's joint width. Wasn't the right English, we should understand. The width of 1 thumb joint from the bottom, and a maximum of 3 finger breadths ultimately again from the top. So says the Gemara, Ravina Rav Sama, like this, the width of the thumb, the width of the thumb. So the Gemara says, Ravina Rav Sama have a yasi kameid Ravashi. Ravina Rav Sama, ultimately again we're sitting by Ravashi. Chazye Rav Sama lekarnei diglime diravina disasar ubatsar mimale kasher gudol. So we'll say, so listen to this. So Rav Sama saw that the corner of the garment of Ravina became undone, and ultimately what? Ultimately had less than the width of the joint of the thumb left on his beged. In other words, that the tzitzis became undone. So it says the Gemara, Amar Lei, in other words, we'll say what's happening over here is there's now no longer the minimum distance between the tzitzis and the bottom of the garment. Amar Lei, lo savar la mar lahad Rabbi Yaakov, do you not go ahead and hold ultimately again of that which Rabbi Yaakov said? So the Gemara says, do you not go ahead and hold that you have to distance it from the beged, the width of the thumb? So the Gemara says, Amar lei lo savar lamar. Amar lei lo savar lamar lahad Rabbi Yaakov. Amar lei b'shas asiya itmar. So he said that's true, but that shear is only in effect when? At the time when you actually make the tzitzis. In other words, we'll say, which is actually interesting. At the time you put the tzitzis on the beged, you need that distance from the edge. But apparently, the halacha takes into, account normative wear and tear on the beged, so that even if the tzitzis kind of come down and end up hanging closer to the edge, it's okay. Ichsif, so he became embarrassed. Rav Sama became embarrassed that he gave this Moser. So the Gemara said he was wrong. So the Gemara said, Ravashi lo taskif lecha. Ravashi said, don't be embarrassed. Why? Because the Gemara says, listen to this, Chad minayu kitrei minan. Ultimately, again, because he said one of him is like 2 of us. Others will say, Ravina was from Eretz Yisrael. The other 2 Rabbanim were from Bavel. So he was saying, one was saying to the other, don't worry that you got bested by a Rav from Eretz Yisrael, because the Talmidei Chacham of Eretz Yisrael, one of them is like 2 of us. Okay, beautiful Gemara. 1 Jew from Eretz Yisrael is like 2 Jews from Chutz La'aretz, apparently. So the Gemara says as follows: Rav Acha bar Yaakov, Rami Arba. So also listen to this. Now the Gemara just discusses how they actually put in their tzitzis. So the Gemara says as follows. Fine. The Gemara says as follows. Rav Acha bar Yaakov Rami Arba. Rav Yaakov bar Yaakov put in 4 strings. Ayif, he would then fold them. Ayif luhu. Did I skip? No. Ayif luhu me'af u'mayale beglima. So we'll say what would happen. Rav Acha bar Yaakov would insert 4 strings. He would fold them over, and then ultimately again he would knot them. Technically speaking, it actually means a slip knot. He would put a slip knot ultimately afterwards in the beged. Va'avik luhu mevak, and then he would go ahead and knot it again. Kasavar ba'inan tamnia beglimi kihechi dilehavi gedil gedilim b'makom psil, because he felt that you needed 8 strings on the beged in order to go ahead. And also, we actually had this drasha a few days ago of gedil gedilim, right? That teaches you 4 strings that become 8 b'makom psil. Rabbi Yirmiyah Medifti Rami Tamnia. Rabbi Yirmiyah Medifti, he put in 8 strings. 8 strings, de'inu shissar, that when folded over became 16, velo avik luhu. But but he would not them. Marbre Dravina, Avid Kididan. Marbre Dravina did what we do. Rashi says, what is it what we do? If you look at Rashi, it's towards the bottom across from Rabbeinu Gershom. Kididan, Machnis Dalid Chutin, Va'achar Kach Kofla Lishmona. You put in there 4 strings, and afterwards you fold over the 4 strings to make them 8. Rav Nachman, Ashkechei, they're both saying that's what we do. We take 4 strings, we insert them in the baguette unknotted, fold them over in the baguette, and then again, as we spoke about before, as we established, when it comes to Chos Tzitzis, so there's different shitos in terms of the knotting. One thing is clear, which is what? The first knot is the oraisa that we spoke about again. So, which is actually just an interesting idea to think about it. That if you were to take the strings, 4 strings, insert them in the baguette, fold them over to make them into 8, and you were to go ahead and do a single double knot, one will have fulfilled the mitzvah of tzitzis mid the oraisa. Just an interesting idea. We do many other knots and many other loops, but technically speaking, one fills the mitzvah dorais like that. So the Gemara goes right. Rav Nachman Ashkechei Rav Adabar Ava. So now we come to a very interesting sugya about brachas. Rav Nachman Ashkechei Rav Adabar Ava. So we'll say, so Rav Nachman, founder of Adabar Ava, Rami Chuti v'kamevarich la'asos tzitzis. So he was putting strings as he was making the tzitzis. He recited a bracha, l'kamavarich la'asos tzitzis. Bracha Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam, asher k'sham misav tzivanu la'asos tzitzis. Okay. Amar lei, my tzitzi shaman lahachi. My tzitzi shaman. So let's listen to this. So Rav Nachman says to Rabbi Ravina, what is this tzitzi that I hear you talking about? In other words, what he was saying is, why making a bracha? Why making a bracha on the fashioning of tzitzis? Hachi amarav. Tzitzis ain't tzricha bracha. Rav said that's what Rabbi say, that you do not make a bracha on tzitzis at the time that you make them. There is a bracha on tzitzis when you wear them, but not a bracha on tzitzis when you make them. So the Gemara says, Kinach nafshi dirav, Kinach nafshi dirafuna, when Rav Huna passed away, Al Rav Chisda lememra dirav adirav, lemirma dirav adirav. So Rav Chisda came up in order to find out or resolve certain contradictions that he had regarding the teachings of Rav. Umiyamar Rav tzitzis ein tzarach bracha. This is actually really a fascinating sugya. Did Rav really say that tzitzis don't require a bracha? Did Rav really say that? Vaha amar Rav, vaha Rav Yehuda Rav, but Rav Yehuda is the name of Rav. Minayin letzitzis ba'ovid kochavim shehi psula. We'll say, from where do we know that if an ovid kochavim makes tzitzis, a non-Jew fashions tzitzis, that the tzitzis will be possible? Shene'emar daber al b'nei Yisrael v'asu lahem tzitzis. Because also the pasuk says, speak to the Jewish people, and they will make for themselves tzitzis. B'nei Yisrael yasu v'lo ovdei kochavim yasu. Which also is very important. You have a great idea, right? You're going to open up a tzitzis factory in right, Taiwan, right? In Taiwan, just like, it doesn't work. I mean, unless you staff it with Jews, right? But the idea is tzitzis. The Gemara is suggesting over here, tzitzis can only be made by Jews, cannot be made by non-Jews. Where do we know that? Tabra b'nei Yisrael asu lahem tzitzis. Not only are Jews obligated to wear tzitzis, but tzitzis can only be made by Jews as well. So it says the Gemara. V'hai my rumya. So it says the Gemara, okay, so what does this have to, that's fine, what does this have to do with bracha? In other words, well, so I remember again, the discussion we're having over here is what? Do you make a bracha at the time that you make tzitzis or not? So it seems to be a source of a machlokas. The Gemara quotes the pasuk, Darba b'nei Yisrael, only Jews make tzitzis, not Jews don't make tzitzis. Okay, what does that have to do with bracha? Says the Gemara, V'hai my rumya. So what is that? So now that we've established that only Jews can make tzitzis, non-Jews cannot make tzitzis. So what does that have to do with bracha? Amar Rav Yosef, here we go. Kasav Rav Chisda, Rabbi says, actually amazing. Kol mitzvah shekshera ba'ovei kochavim. Rabbi say, any mitzvah which can technically be done by an akum, ein tzarech b'Yisrael, ein tzarech levarich. A Jew does not make a bracha on that mitzvah. Well, I'm going to define what this means in just a moment. On the other hand, I will say first wide line, Memezim with Aleph. On the other hand, kol mitzvah shepsulah ba'ovei kochavim, b'Yisrael tzarech levarich. But on the other hand, any mitzvah which cannot be done by a non-Jew, so a Yisrael makes a bracha. Now, look at Rashi for just a moment. Rashi says, "Ein tzricha bracha." Mitzvah sheksher ba'avi kochav b'Yisrael tzarich bracha. Also said that what Gemara is suggesting is a principle. Any mitzvah which can be done by a non-Jew, a Jew does not make a bracha when he performs it. Why not? Says Rashi, Den yochel lomar asher kiddishanu da ovid kochavim nami kasher ba. It's actually amazing. Why? Because if a non-Jew could also perform the mitzvah, then a Jew cannot make the bracha of asher kiddishanu b'mitzvosav vitzivanu. You can't say you've sanctified me and commanded me, meaning which will say which conveys the message that this mitzvah is uniquely suited for a Jew, if a non-Jew has the ability to do it. So any mitzvah that only a Jew could do, you make a bracha on it. Any mitzvah where even a non-Jew could do it, you don't make a bracha on it. Now the Gemara is going to challenge this. Uklalahu, is that true? Is that an actual principle? Also listen to this. V'hari mila. We have a bris today, Baruch Hashem. Incredible timing. V'hari mila. Dikshira ba'ovid kochavim. Also listen to this. A non-Jew could perform bris mila. This sanya, get ready for this. Ir she'im barof Yisrael. We'll say, let's say you have a city where there's not a mile, there's not a Jewish mile, there's not a Jewish doctor. Who could imagine such a thing like that? A mile like it here, not a Jewish doctor. Impossible. What a profound failure for a city if you can't produce one Jewish doctor. So the Gemara says, Ir she'in barofa Yisrael, v'yesh barofa aramai, barofa kusi. We'll say what you do have is an Aramean doctor, which is a non-Jewish doctor, an Akum doctor, and a Kusi. They're both saying that Kusim are always this interesting discussion, because Kusim converted, but their conversion is always subject to suspicion because they were found to have been worshipping idolatry after their conversion. So their status is always suspect. Thank you. So the Gemara says, watch this. So now I don't have a Jewish doctor, but I do have either a Gentile doctor or a Kusi doctor. Who should circumcise the child? So the Gemara says, Yomal Aramoy va'al yimol Kusi divrei Meir. Well, this is actually amazing. Rabbi Meir says, let the guy do it and not the Kusi. Why should the guy do it and not the Kusi? Also listen to this. Rashi says, va'al yomol Kusi lefi shamal shem hagrizim. Also listen to this. You see, the Aramoy, the Gentile, has no mitzvah of milah. He has no shaychus to milah. So therefore, when he does the milah, we'll say, what's his kavana? For the Jews, right? The Jews have this mitzvah. I'm helping them discharge the mitzvah. The Kusi Avosai, which is actually interesting, what's his kavana? His kavana could be for his avodah zarah. So we'll say, so what's amazing is, Rabbi Meir says, we'd rather have the Gentile do it than the Kusi, because the Gentile is not going to have any alien machshavas. There's only one reason he's doing this, is because the Jews have this mitzvah. He's helping out the Jews. The Kusi may actually have alien machshavas. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, no. Kusi v'lo Aramai. Rabbi Yehuda says no. We'd rather have the Kusi do it and not the Arami and not the Gentile. For one simple reason, the Kusi, Rabbi say, at least is somewhat shaykh to the mitzvah. The Aramai is not. Ubi Yisrael tzarech levarich. But a Yisrael ultimately has to make a bracha. Domer Mar, Hamal Omer, we'll say ultimately it's actually Hamol. The one who goes ahead and does the bris milah says, Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu Baruch atah Baruch Asher K'sham Sof Tzivanu Al Hamila. So we'll say, what do you just see from this case? This is a case, or at least according to one opinion, an Akum can't perform the mitzvah, or an Aramai can't perform the mitzvah, yet what? A Jew is still reciting a bracha. They both say, that shares the principle you just said before. We just said before that halacha l'maisa, anytime a Gentile can perform a mitzvah, a Jew doesn't make a bracha. Yet Milah disproves that a Gentile could technically perform the mitzvah, yet a Jew will still make a bracha. To which the Gemara says, 1 second. Midihu time elar. Remember again, this whole discussion only gets started according to Rav. We'll say Rav is the one who espoused this principle that whenever a Gentile could do the mitzvah, a Jew does not make a bracha. It is only if only a Jew could do the mitzvah that a Gentile can't make the bracha. That's Rav's position. Not everybody holds to this. So the Gemara says, the Rav mifsal pasal. Rav holds that a Gentile is not permitted to do milah. So we'll say, so therefore again, in Rav's world, this all works out just fine. To which the Gemara says, the itmar minayim milah become shepsula. So we'll say, ultimately again, from where do we know? This is Rav Shita. From where do we know that an ovid kochavim cannot do milah for a Jew? So the Gemara says, Daru Rav Papa Mishmeid Rav Amar Va'ata as Brisi Tishmar. Because also by Mila the pasuk says, and you shall guard my covenant. Rabbi Yochanan Amar Himol Yimol. Rabbi Yochanan says, it comes from the pasuk of Himol Yimol, Hamal Yimol. He who is circumcised, right, ultimately what is permitted to go ahead and circumcise others. He who is not circumcised cannot circumcise others. So also we actually had this whole sugya in Kiddushin, because this is where the whole discussion about a woman's ability to do bris milah comes up as well. She might be part of what's called the bris, the covenant with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but doesn't satisfy the criteria of himol, yimol. Again, we went through this whole sugya. So I'll say, so I'm just pointing out over here. So remember, so first of all, according to Rav, the whole discussion about nachri kusi doesn't even get off the ground, because a nachri is totally disqualified from milah. So therefore, in Rav's world, it's only a kusi who's doing it, and therefore his principle is preserved. So therefore, I will say we're still back trying to figure out. Remember again, how do we get to all this? We got to all this by, do you make a bracha when you make your tzitzis or not? That seems to be a machlokes. We then introduced Rav's principle that whenever a particular act can only be done by a Jew, it gets a bracha. If it can also be done by a Gentile, it doesn't get a bracha. We tried to disprove it by milah, but it turns out that milah can't disprove that. Next, let's see. Here we go. Sukkah, incredible. Sukkah. So the Gemara says, Sukkah Mese'ele, Tefillin Havi Tiyufta. So it's a kiss. It's a kiss from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, absolutely. So Sukkah, Rabbi says, now watch this. We're gonna talk about two cases. Sukkah supports this idea. Tefillin refutes this idea. What does this mean? Here we go. Hare, so the Gemara says, Hare Sukkah, Dikshera Ba'ovi Kochalim. But I'll say, interestingly enough, Sukkah of a Gentile is kosher for me to fulfill my mitzvah. Disanya, Sukkahs Ovid Kochavim. If you have the Sukkah of an Hakum, Sukkahs Nashim, a woman's Sukkah, Sukkahs Behema, Sukkahs Kusim, Sukkah Mikol Makom. We'll say, what's a Sukkahs Behema? Like a pen, like an animal pen that just happens to conform to the halachos of Sukkah, or the Sukkah of Kusim, or the truth is any kind of Sukkah is kosher. As long as what Rabbi say, as long as halacha lamaisa, the Sukkah is made kahalacha. As long as it conforms ultimately again to the details. So Rabbi say, now this statement is a little bit misleading because again you'd have to do something. You'd have to do something in order to render it with Kiddusha Sukkah, but nevertheless, on a principle level, it works. Meaning if the structure is there, it can absolutely be used for Sukkah. Ubi Yisrael ein tzarich levarich. And therefore Rabbi say, when a Jew, so we're going to define what this means, and by Yisrael he doesn't make a bracha by Sukkah. Now what does that mean? Tisanya, here we go. Ha'oseh Sukkah liatzmo. We'll say if somebody makes a sukkah for himself, Omer Baruch Ato Hashem Elokeinu Melech Olam Shechianu V'Kiyamanu V'Giyanu Lazman Hazeh. We'll say when you make your sukkah, you make the bracha of Shechianu. Ba Leishev Ba. If you want to go ahead and when you sit in it, you say Baruch Ato Hashem Elokeinu Melech Olam Asher Kiddushan V'Sasav V'Tzivanu Leishev Ba Sukkah V'ilu La'asos Sukkah Lo Mavarich. Now we'll say, now watch this. What is that shechianu? We'll say that shechianu, technically speaking. Now we don't do that. We don't do that because we make shechianu first night as part of Kiddush. But technically speaking, if within 30 days of the Yom Tiv, one made a shechianu putting up their sukkah, technically speaking, it could work. It could discharge the shechianu obligation. Now again, what you do about the shechianu on Yom Tiv, besides the mitzvah of sukkah, because when we make shechianu on Yom Tiv, on first night sukkahs, that satisfies two things. That's for the mitzvah of sukkah and for the Yom Tiv. If you made your shechianu technically on your sukkah earlier on, technically that shechianu works. What you do by Yom Tiv, all right, that's a different discussion. Now we'll say, but what do you see from here? What you see from here is there is no bracha of la'asos sukkah. Now, in the Gemara's model in Rav's world, we're attributing that to what? To the fact that technically speaking, even an akum could build the sukkah. So since the akum could do it, therefore the Yisrael does not go ahead and make the bracha. This seems to support Rav's idea, to which the Gemara says. So we'll say, so that's how sukkah, although we're going to disprove that, we're going to disprove it just a moment, but that's how sukkah supports Rav's idea. On the other hand, tefillin tiyufte, v'hari tefillin d'psus ovid kochav. So listen to this. When it comes to tefillin, which if an ovid kochav makes them, they're going to be pasul. The Tani Rav Chinina Breid Rava, we'll say on days, because of Chari Rav Chinina mi pashranya said as follows: Sefer Torah Tefillin Mezuzos Shekasvan Tzeduki Kusi Ovid Kochavim Evet Isha V'Katan Mumer This is a star-studded lineup over here. So if any of these people go ahead now for different reasons, by the way. So right, Tzduki, Kusi, Oved Kochavim, what they write of Sifrei Torah, Tefillin, and Mezuzos will all be puzzle because there's a concern that they have in mind for the wrong deity. Isha, the Katan, their psul is something different. Mumar is same idea as Tzeduki, Kusi, Oved Kochavim. Are all puzzle. Why Shnei Amar? Both listen to this because the pasuk says Ukshartam, Uksavtam. So listen to this. It says this is an important limud. Kol sheyeshno b'kshira, yeshno b'ksiva. Kol she'eno b'kshira, eno b'ksiva. But say the halacha is anyone who is obligated in these mitzvos ultimately again has the right to write them, has the ability to write them. If you're not shayich in these mitzvos, then what? Then halacha l'maisa, you do not write them. So the Gemara says, Ubi Yisrael ein tzarich levarich. Rabbi say Yisrael doesn't make a bracha when writing Sifrei Torah, Tefillin, and Mezuzos. Now, both say, now this seems to stare Rav, this contradicts Rav, because what did Rav say? Anytime you have a mitzvah that an akum can't perform, then what? Then Yisrael makes a bracha. See here, writing Sifrei Torah, Tefillin, and Mezuzos is a mitzvah that an akum cannot perform, yet there is no bracha recited on the writing of Sifrei Torah, Tefillin, and Mezuzos. So what's the pshat? To which the Gemara says, the Shalach Rav Chia Bereid Rav Huna Mishmeid Rav Yochanan. Al Tefillin Shal Yad, because most listen to this, what did we learn? For Tefillin Shal Yad, Omer, Baruch Asher Kiddush Amos Osav Yitzyon La'niach Tefillin. So also when you put on your Shal Yad, you say the bracha of La'niach Tefillin. Al Tefillin Shal Rosh, Omer, Baruch Asher Kiddush Amos Osav Yitzyon Al Mitzvahs Tefillin. So also so there's a bracha when you put on the Shal Yad, there's a bracha when you put on the Shal Rosh. V'ilu la'asos tefillin lo mevarich. We have to say, what do you see? There is no bracha on what? On the creation of tefillin. So we'll say, so again, this contradicts Rav. Because Rav said, anytime you have a mitzvah, that what? That an akum can't perform, the Jew makes a bracha. These are mitzvahs which an akum can't perform, yet the Jew's making a bracha when he puts it on, but he's not making any kind of bracha. When he fashions it, to which the Gemara says, "I'll say no. Here we go. I'll say, and this becomes the halacha l'maisa makes sense of everything. Elalav hainu taima. I'll say when it comes to making brachos on things, here is the logic. Kol mitzvah de asiyase gemar mitzvah kigon mila. So we'll say, listen to this. Any mitzvah where the act is the completion of the mitzvah, for example, like bris. We'll discuss this in just a moment. Af agav diksher ba'ovei kochavim. Even if the act can be done by a Gentile, a Jew still makes a bracha. But I will say, whenever ultimately, again, the action or the creation is not the actualization, fulfillment, or completion of the mitzvah, kigon tefillin, for example, with the creation or writing of tefillin, even though it can be done by an akum, eino sarich levarich. Ultimately, again, you don't have to make a bracha. We'll say, or in other words, what the Gemara is saying is as follows. Do you know when you make a bracha? You make a bracha over the fulfillment of the mitzvah, not over the creation of the framework which allows for later fulfillment. So, for example, I will say, let's keep this in Yonei Diyoma. Is there a mitzvah to make a sukkah? Is that the mitzvah? No. The mitzvah is what? To sit in the sukkah. Leishev basukkah. Therefore, again, halacha l'maisa, there is no bracha that is made over the construction of the sukkah, because essentially it's the hechsher mitzvah, it's the enabler for the mitzvah. So again, it's not the fulfillment, it's what enables the fulfillment. Is there a mitzvah to write? So actually, what's interesting about Sifrei Torah, Tefillin, and Mezuzos is there is a mitzvah to write a Sefer Torah. But interestingly enough, that mitzvah itself is also the enabler for Talmud Torah. There is a mitzvah to write tefillin, but that mitzvah is the enabler to put on tefillin. In other words, a person writes a pair of tefillin and leaves them in the drawer, chas v'shalom, and never puts them on, that's not the mitzvah. So what the Gemara suggests is, here's the principle. Anytime that the actual act that's being done is the mitzvah, that's when it gets a bracha. If the act is a hechsher, is a preparatory act for the later performance of the mitzvah, it doesn't get a bracha. Mila, the act is the mitzvah, gets a bracha. Writing of tefillin, that's the hechsher, doesn't get a bracha. Building of your sukkah, ultimately again, that's the hechsher, not the actual mitzvah, therefore it doesn't get a bracha. And Abba say, let's bring this full circle. Because remember, how did this journey start? Tzitzis. So remember again, the machlokis we had was, do you make a bracha on the actual creation? When you tie the tzitzis, is there bracha? The Gemara says, oh, here's the machlokes. Ubetzitzis b'alkamim v'gabos, this is a riveting machlokes. B'alkamim v'ligi, mar savar chovas talisu, umar savar chovas gavrahu. Oh, I will say this is great. By tzitzis, the fundamental machlokes I will say is this a din in the gavra or is it a din in the cheftza? I will say, what is the mitzvah of tzitzis? Is the mitzvah of tzitzis that if I have a four-cornered garment, I have to put tzitzis on it. Whether I wear it or not is irrelevant. If I am in the possession of a four-cornered garment, I have to put tzitzis on that. Or do we say, no, the obligation of tzitzis only comes up when? If I am wearing the four-cornered garment. If I'm not wearing it, but instead what? It's just sitting in my drawer, I have no obligation. All right, where's the nafkamina? So get ready for this. This is very exciting. So watch this. If you hold that tzitzis is a chovas cheftza, that it's a din in the cheftza, it's a din in the four-corner garment, then when do you make your bracha, Rabosai? When you make the tzitzis. Because the making, when I say making this, meaning the placing of the tying of the tzitzis on the garment is the actual mitzvah. If you hold on the other hand that no, the mitzvah of tzitzis is if I wear a four-cornered garment, I have to go ahead and put tzitzis on. Then Rabbi say, when does the mitzvah take place? Not when I tie the tzitzis, but when I wear the tzitzis. So therefore, the Gemara suggests that is at the root, that is at the core over here of this fundamental machlokes. Is tzitzis a chovas gavra? So we'll say this takes you back to yeshiva days a little bit. It got right the machlokes, is it the chiv and the gavra, chiv and the chefza, right? So we'll say, but this is the fundamental machlokes. So the Gemara goes weiter. And we'll say now the Gemara doesn't solve it here. Amar le Rav Mordechai Rav Ashi, asun hachi masnisala. This is how you learn it. Anan hachi masninale. This is how we learn it. Amar Rabbi Yehuda Amar Rav. Well, so here we go. Minayin l'tzitzis b'aviv cham shekshera. How do you know that if tzitzis is made by an akum that it's kosher? Shene'emar. That so we'll say. So now remember, in this version, what we're asking over here is what we're discussing is maybe the idea that tzitzis that is made by an akum will be kosher. Where do you know that from? Shene'emar. Daber al b'nei Yisrael v'yasu lahem tzitzis. We'll say this is such an interesting drasha. So speak to the Jewish people. Say to the Jewish people, va'asu lahem tzitzis. And literally again, asu lahem we'll say means what? It shall be made for them, right? Make for them tzitzis. Ya'asu lahem achirim. It provides the license what for Rabosai? You can have someone else make it for you. Even someone else. Now who's the someone else? Bepashtus, the someone else also refers to who? Even an akum. Amrav Yutam Rav. A son. So we'll say, so again, we're going to discuss the ramifications of that because Rabbi say, if an akum is making it, so that if you're entertaining the idea that an akum can make tzitzis, Rabbi say, then you must be presupposing that what? That perhaps no particular kavana is necessary for the making of tzitzis. Because how could I rely on the akum to have any particular kavana? Remember again, so just hold on to that in the back of your mind for just a moment. Gemara is going to go on a tangent, but it's not really a tangent. I'm Rav Yehuda Rav. Asam min hakotzim min hanimin umin agardim sur. We'll say, so now, jumping for a moment to another discussion. If a person made tzitzis, we'll say kotzim, nimin, and gardin are all the leftover threads, different types of leftover threads on a fabric. So if you go ahead and you make it out of any of these items, ultimately, again, it will be pasul. Now, why is that? Rashi points out, deba'inon asiya lishma. Because also remember, again, those threads are just hanging there. Remember, we spoke about this already in yesterday's daf, of a concern about using loose hanging thread as part of the garment. You can't do that because that thread, that string wasn't made for the purpose of tzitzis. That thread or that string was made for the purpose of the garment, and therefore to incorporate it into tzitzis is not going to be good. Min hasisin kshira. I will say if you made it from regular thread, if you just took like from a ball of thread, or maybe thread is the wrong word, yarn, right? You took it from a ball of yarn and you made tzitzis out of that. I suppose I go to the, I don't know, where do you buy yarn? Good, it's at the yarn store, right? And you go ahead and you decide you just buy a ball of yarn and you say to yourself, you know what? I'm just going to make tzitzis out of the yarn. So the Gemara says it's kosher. So we'll say now, watch this. This is very important. Kiam Rise Kamei the Shmuel. So when we said this one for the Shmuel said, Af minasis. No. You can't just go ahead and make tzitzis out of any yarn or out of any thread. ba'inan tivia lishma. We will say when it comes to tzitzis, you require weaving for the sake of tzitzis. Which I both say now, by the way, this is a brand new dimension. See, up until now we thought that even if you hold that you require making tzitzis lishma, what does making tzitzis lishma mean? The tying of the tzitzis, right? So the tying of the tzitzis. Now Shmuel suggesting, no, you even need tevia lishma. The strings themselves, when the strings are made, must be spun or woven for the sake l'shem mitzvahs tzitzis, a brand new level. Kitanoi. So we'll say, so now we have a problem, because the question is, we have machlokes Rav and Shmuel. This is very exciting. Machlokes Rav and Shmuel. Rav says that you can make tzitzis even out of stam yarn, any kind of string. Shmuel says, no, you can't. What's at the core of their machlokes? Rabbi saying, does tzitzis require tevia lishma? Does tzitzis, do you have to spin the wool, or spin the wool? I think I'm using the right terminology here. Spin the wool, create the threads, lishma, meaning does even the creation of the strings themselves have to be l'shem mitzvahs? Rav says no, Shmuel says yes. The Gemara says machlokes tanoim. Here we go. Sipan zahav. Supposed to say this is by tefillin now. If you covered your tefillin in gold, or you put the hide of a non-kosher animal over it, what's that? Psulos, that renders above side the tefillin puzzle. Or behema tahora. Above say if you go ahead and you put what? If you put the hide of a kosher animal on your tefillin, then what's that? Ksheros afa pishalo ibdan lishma. Even though what Rabbi was saying, even though the hide of the animal was not tanned, lishma, l'shem mitzvahs tefillin. Rabbi Shimon Gamliel Omer, af or behema tahora psulos ad sheyabdan lishma. So Rabbi Shimon Gamliel says no. Even if you use the hide of a kosher animal, the hide of a kosher animal is only kosher for tefillin when Rabbi was saying if it's tanned lishma. So we'll say, what do you begin to see? You begin to see fundamental machlokes in the realm of even preparation of mitzvah materials. In the realm of preparation of mitzvah materials, does the preparation have to be done lishma or not? That itself is subject to machlokes. Amrali Abayid Rav Shmuel bar Yehuda. So we'll say, so therefore again, so first of all we'll say the way we paskin is that there has to be ibud lishma. The hide of the tefillin has to, if it's not done lishma, then ultimately it does work. By tzitzis tevila shrabosai it's machlokes. So bidi eved we paskin that even if the tzitzis threads were not spun lishma, then if spinning wasn't done lishma, technically the tzitzis will still be kosher. But the chatchila, the tvia, the spinning itself, the creation of the threads should be done lishma. We'll say 2 more minutes. The Gemara says as follows: Amalei Abayid Rav Shmuel bar Yehuda. Hot chelta hechit sav isula. We'll say, listen to this. So now we're going to get into how is tchelis produced. This is really very interesting. How now they're not going to talk about necessarily the source of the tchelis, but they're asking more like the actual production of the dye. How was it done? Hechit sav isula. Amalei my sinan dam chilazon. We bring the dam, the blood of the chilazon. Rabbi said the chilazon was that snail from that creature that they extract the dye from. Vissamanin. And they take the blood of the chilazon together with some other herbs, right? Mix that all together. V'ramina le biyora. We put that in a big pot. Umar sechina le. We heat it up. V'shakilna porta bebe asa. Rabbi said, now what do we do? Listen to this. After the dye is made, we take out a little bit of the dye with an eggshell. So I don't know why eggshell, but they used to go ahead and remove some of the dye. So remember also, when you cook up your batch of tcheles, you have to make sure that it's a good batch. So the first thing before you do anything is you have to test it. How do you test it? You scoop some up with an eggshell, vita'aminon luhu bu'udra, and you test it with some wool. So what you do is you take up some tcheles with the eggshell, you pour it on some wool, and we're both remember we went this yesterday. You're looking for 2 things. What are the 2 things you're looking for? Coloration and absorption, right? So what's the coloration and absorption? So you go ahead and you test it with some wool. Vishadinan lei lahu biasa. Then I will say what you do is after you finish, if it works, then fine. You throw out the rest of the tcheles that was in the eggshell. Throw out the eggshell. Vikalinan lei leudra. Then you burn the test wool. Then you burn the test wool. So we'll say shma min hatlas. We learned from here 3 things. So we'll say that's the process for tcheles. Now you can go home and do it yourself, right? So we'll say, so now we learn from here 3 things. Number 1, shma min hatima psula. We'll say number 1, we learn that the test string is possible to be used for tzitzis. We already spoke about this yesterday, right? So I say, how do we know from this that test wool is possible? Because what do you do with the test wool? You burn it, you destroy it. Well, that's interesting. It's not just have to throw it, you have to actually destroy it because you don't want anyone inadvertently using it. We'll say furthermore, we see from here that what? The coloring of the tchelas, meaning when you dye the tzitzis tchelas, it has to be done the shema. We'll say, where do we see that? Because again, you can't use the test string. Because the test string of both sides is not done the shem, it's a tzitzis. It's done to see what? How the dye turns out. Ushmamina tima psula. And we'll say, we see from here that what? We see, first of all, I'm sorry, the tzviya l'shma, if you look at Rashi, tima psula, I'm sorry, im irat seven isam biyara posas kol yom. We'll say, furthermore, we see that what? That halacha l'maisa is very interesting. If you were to pour back any of the test tchelas into the rest of the batch, it would passel the rest of the batch. We'll say what's interesting is, so in other words, remember, you're scooping out some of the tchelas with your eggshell, you're pouring it onto the wool. There's still potentially, what do you do with the eggshell and the leftover tchelas dyeing the eggshell? You throw it out, right? You discard it. The Gemara says, you see from here that if you were to pour back any of that test tchelas into the pot of tchelas, it would what? Ruin the whole batch. So the Gemara says, Hainu tima psula, hainu tzviya l'shma. But I understand two of those things are the same thing, right? The idea is that the test string is puzzle, and what? You need tzviya l'shma, so two of the same states. In other words, the Gemara says, you're right, Amar Rashi, matam kamar. Matam tima psula. Why is it ultimately, again, that the test string will be puzzle? Mishum dibainan tzviya l'shma. Because we'll say at the end of the day, you require what? You require a dyeing of the tchila string l'shma, and therefore, again, the test string will be puzzle. So we'll stop over here for today. Shkoyach, happy Shabbos. We'll say the parasha thought was already recorded and it's posted. I know, I saw that actually. The Rush brings down a different opinion.